most people we see at shows, I mean, we don't see a lot of skincare there. They're not taking,
Yeah.
they're not doing much. And we know that what your environment, how your skin anticipates the environment affects your cellular structure, DNA. When you talk
Mm-hmm.
about DNA, it basically affects it every 40 seconds. It's changing. So
Uh-huh.
if you're putting garbage on, you're sending garbage information.
We are targeting basically using the most advanced longevity and biohacking science ingredients and translating them into something your skin likes, can absorb, and can use, and it's bioavailable, etc. And that is a very hard task because 90% of the ingredients that we have, no one knows what we're talking about.
Welcome to the Brain Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Patrick Porter. Please join us on our mission to better a billion brains. Enjoy the episode and remember to share it with your family and friends.
Hello, this is Dr. Patrick Porter, and welcome back to the Brain Fitness Podcast, where we're bringing you tips and tricks to help you on your biohacking journey as well as your brain health. And today we're talking to one of my close friends in the biohacking industry. We've been with each other in so many different activities and things, and I've used his products. My wife uses his products. My granddaughter uses his products. And I said, we need to get your products out to more BrainTap users because people don't know what's going on with their skincare, right? So we're talking to Amitay here, and if you can just tell us a little bit about how you got into this field and why is it so important that people take care of their skincare for their general health and then just for their overall well-being.
Well, and I'll do you even better. I'll explain how it actually affects brain health. But
Okay.
so first of all, my name is Amitay Eshel, as Patrick, Dr. Porter had just mentioned. I mean, we've been in the same circles and hanging out with each other for a few years now, and obviously, I am a self-admitted braintap addict, and that's kind of how we got friendly, because I told Pat I went up to Patrick once and I told him, you are the voice I fall asleep to every night. So that's kind of how we started. But my journey is not the normal journey. Probably you will hear from most people who are into longevity and anti-aging and biohacking and wellness, which normally people tell you about their difficulty and their struggles around health. And then they tell you how they found a community around it. For me, it was more about not necessarily escaping the pain, but kind of towards pleasure. I was in Israeli special operations. After that, I was one of the head honchos in a red light therapy company, and that really helped my mental cognition. It helped my athletic performance, and I wanted more of that. I said, well, that's definitely a piece of it, and as we know, it is a piece of the BrainTap headset. But that was, I told myself there probably are many other tools that I don't even know that are going to help me achieve maximal performance and going to maintain my youthful state. So that's kind of how I got into the whole biohacking field. And the way we started the company, which is really interesting, we never intended on starting a skincare company. We actually wanted to take this magical molecule that's called NAD+, actually take its building blocks, which the body likes way more and uses way more. And we wanted to bypass the need to go to a medical professional and get an IV that costs hundreds and even thousands of dollars. So what we did was we tried to create a cream that the molecules are small enough to penetrate through the skin and go to the bloodstream. But unfortunately, the skin doesn't like to share. So even though we got it through the skin held onto it, and it just became way more youthful in its biological function. And we found kind of I would say a kind of a miracle in biology, which is a way to rewind the functional youth of cells. And we made lemonade out of lemons. So we started a skincare company, and now it's kind of a cult product within the biohacking field. But obviously, we believe everyone can enjoy it, not only people who read about, how to exceed their biological limitations or whatever that is.
Right. Well, I mean, a lot of people don't understand that the skin is the biggest elimination organ and that it has a lot of things. So maybe just give us a background about why you chose the skin and how come the skin is so important to rejuvenate and what you're finding is happening with Young Goose.
Well, that's a great question. So just to give you maybe the end of the story is that now we know unequivocally, I mean, many studies have been published about it, that the age of which you appear to be is intrinsically correlated with the actual biological age that you are. And the deviation is not large, to the extent that now AI companies are devising algorithms to kind of predict mortality and predict different illnesses and just predict your biological age only by taking a picture of yourself, just a selfie. So this is a very, very important, I believe, like a window to your general health. And as you said, the skin is definitely an elimination organ, but it is also a communication organ. So this is our way to communicate vitality and youthfulness. And, speaking of the psyche, like, again, coming from red light therapy background, we had the task. I was basically in charge, because in the military I built teams, etc. I was in charge of building sales teams for this company that was a startup, saying, okay, there is this red light therapy laser that we can now bring to market to consumers because of advancement in LED technology. But the whole language needed to change, because the way you talk to someone who treats like phantom pain in paraplegics is not the same way you're going to talk to a normal person on the street that just wants something that the red light can do. And we found out that you can talk about pain, and athletic performance as much as you want, but the minute you mention the fact that people can look better if they stand in front of this red light panel, they gobbled it up. So I think that was the first time I understood that you can really entice someone to take care of their health because you're telling them the end of the road leads to better skin, leads to better appearance. We saw you, Patrick, going into an ice bath and basically like really white knuckling through it. And we understood, but the end of this was an incredible health transformation that you had, which is obviously an inspiration to all of us. So we can understand how one trigger can actually, basically set you on a path that would benefit the entire organism, the entire person. Speaking about this, but that kind of is why Young Goose is more than a skincare company. We actually say we're a media company that supports itself with skincare products. So what we're trying to do is really to get people to understand longevity. And we just use the molecules, the most advanced molecules within longevity science, and bottle them up into cream form, into skincare form. But they really are a part of people's longevity journey. And the skin is so important as far as like its way of communicating with the environment. As I said, it's a communication organ, that one of its jobs is relaying stress from the environment. As the skin grows older and accumulate these rogue cells, these malfunctioning cells that are called senescent cells, they can actually hijack that communication between the skin and the brain and actually age our brain, which obviously is going to age the rest of our body. So we are now starting to see, 10, 20 years after we've discovered the names of the different aging processes that are happening in our body, we're starting to understand that the skin isn't only affected by them and is a sign of them, but actually drives a lot of those mechanisms.
Yeah. Well, most people don't realize the fact that every cell is mirroring. We have those mirror neurons in the cells, and I think that's pretty much what you're talking about. And it tells us if we're in a dangerous situation or not. And now with EMF, I think it's even getting worse because the body doesn't know what to do with those 50 million pulses per second. It's going, what the heck is this? Yeah. And every cell, at the core of every cell is something called mitochondria, right? Mm-hmm. So NAD, can you talk about the role of that and how because that's really the health of the cell, is how the energy, and we transmit and receive energy through each of those cells. Mm-hmm. So when you see somebody and they say, boy, you're radiant, there's actually something to that. It's transmitting more energy. So maybe you can share a little bit about that.
Yeah. So just to again, as you referred to, every cell has this little, many of those little power plants that are called mitochondria. And mitochondria, in order to work, it relies on this molecule called NAD. And NAD, really, I call it repair fuel. It's not only even the mitochondria that relies on it. Every repair process, such as like DNA repair, relies on NAD. And to give you an example, if we magically took away all the NAD out of a human being, they're going to be dead in 30 seconds. So just to understand like how important NAD is in the body. And, you know, we are talking about the skin specifically and the emission of luminescence or, you know, emission of energy that is visible. There's actually something called autofluorescence in the skin. And again, that's a measurement of skin age, that we can see how, you know, luminous, how glowing the person is. I'm not talking about sweat and being shiny, but I'm talking about how glowing we are. That is actually something that we can measure and attribute to age, and that relates to our the ability to create energy in the mitochondria. But as I said, you know, our skin gets a lot of assaults. We mentioned EMF, but if you can imagine, you know, a lot of people, if they scroll like Instagram or TikTok or whatever that is, they see every dermatologist under the sun, and no pun intended, talking about SPF, talking about sunblock. But if you live in the Western world, EMF and pollution age you more than the sun does. Actually ages you more than bad food. And that is because these are signals our body never evolved to deal with. And what happens is that this creates legit DNA damage, really corrupts your DNA. And by having NAD at adequate levels, your cells can actually repair that DNA and repel some of that DNA damage. But if we don't, so by the time we're 30 years old, we start to have a decline in NAD supply in our cells. By the time we're 60, we have about half of what we need. So you can imagine every time we don't have enough NAD, that's the time where DNA damage happens. That's where cellular damage that isn't repaired happens. And really, if we think of any cell in our body, aging is really the accumulation of unrepaired damage. So we really have to have high NAD levels in order to have, you know, good cellular health. Whether it is and by the way, the more important the organ in our body, the more kind of highways for NAD it has. So obviously our heart and our brain, they have the most, but our skin it also has a lot of those. And because our skin is, again, exposed to the elements, exposed to EMF, exposed to pollution, exposed to UV radiation, etc., the DNA damage accumulates extremely quickly in our skin. So our skin is always starved off of NAD. And that's why I referred before to the fact that it doesn't like sharing. It's because there is never enough for it to repair all the damage it's getting from the environment, especially in our Western society. So yeah, we're ending up being NAD deprived all the time. And topical NAD is maybe the only way to really top off that NAD reservoir.
I know we don't like to go negative too much, but just tell us a little bit about why. Like, a lot of people just buy the cheapest stuff out there. You know, maybe they hoard the stuff they get at the hotels for their body
Wow.
lotion and things like that. Tell us a little bit about what that's doing to the body, because a lot of people think, oh, lotion's lotion, you
Yep.
know, and just so they understand why it's so important to have something natural that actually is working with, like you're talking about, the NAD pathways and feeding the cells.
Yeah, I mean, you know, in order to do that, I will have to have some agreement with someone. I'll have to have an agreement that the meat that we can get in McDonald's is profoundly different, you know, as far as like the nutrition we get, as far as the health benefits, profoundly different from grass-fed, grass-finished beef from, I don't know, somewhere good. Okay. There is a profound difference. The difference in the supplement industry, and especially the topical cream industry, is hundredfolds the different as far as like the difference between different meat. So when we buy something at a hotel is actually a great example, because we're not throwing any specific brand under the bus, but that is, if you can imagine like a huge chain of hotels. They literally are buying product that is basically the McDonald's of ingredients. And that is what you're putting on your skin. The thing is as we said before, our skin is very similar to our gut, where it needs to discern what can penetrate and get into our body and what doesn't. And first of all, that's a lot of work. So if we load it with a lot of bad ingredients, a lot of, chemicals, a lot of oxidized, rancid ingredients, what we're getting, first of all, is we're burdening that acid mantle, that system that tries to protect our body through the skin. That's number one. Number two, the problem is that what we're going to start to develop, exactly like our brain and our gut, we're going to start to develop leaky skin. And leaky skin means that stuff that are not supposed to get into our skin are getting into our skin. And that is where the real problems are happening. We talked about, the driving of aging from the skin to the brain. There's actually an axis in the brain. It's called the HPA axis that is controlling everything that is associated with stress. And that we can actually measure the aging of that axis through the effects of things that get absorbed through our skin. So we really need to make sure that we have a relationship where we feed our skin the best ingredients possible in order not to burden it, in order not to age it. We can see, by the way, for example, if we talk about sunscreen, which we talked about before, we can see evidence for chemical sunscreen, which does get absorbed into our body. So if there are two types of sunscreen, just a small example, there is chemical and there is mineral. Chemical sunscreen, or physical, I should say, chemical sunscreen gets absorbed into the skin and converts UV rays into thermal energy. And it actually gets absorbed into our bloodstream. And we can see evidence of those chemicals, which are very bad for us, even 10 years after, we can see them in your brain. So just to give you an idea of how harmful these ingredients can be. The other thing is that we can see physical sunscreen are sunscreens that actually sit on top of the skin and actually kind of deflect rays like a mirror would. So this is the difference and why we want to use mineral sunscreen, just as an example. Within that example of things that stay in your body for a very long time, we have things, for example, like antioxidants, which we all love, like vitamin C, stuff like that, or vitamin E. These things are, the reason they work so well is because they're so reactive. The fact that they latch on to free radicals, to oxidative stress, and nullify it. But the thing is that if we have a product that isn't manufactured in the most, I would say, in the most stringent conditions, where we make sure that the chemistry there works, what we're going to get is rancid antioxidants by the time we apply them on the skin. And what this is going to cause actually is DNA damage, in a sense that some experts say that ascorbic acid is the most toxic ingredient you can put on your skin because it's so hard to deal with. So 99.99999% of skincare people use on their face that actually has active ingredients has rancid active ingredients.
Yeah, pretty crazy. I know Young Goose is known for pioneering the use of technology and biohacking and skincare. Let's delve into a little of that because, people just think you just lather up with anything, and they think that there's no way anybody would put something out that's harmful. You just kind of debunk that myth. But tell us a little bit about what Young Goose is doing. Yeah,
so you can look at it from two different angles. The first angle is we don't try to shoot to the lowest common denominator. Like the biggest company in the world 3 years ago came out with their new line of products that's like, the most advanced, whatever. It was based on turmeric. And obviously we use turmeric. Turmeric is great. But that just shows you where they are as far as their science. They're saying, okay, we have to speak the language, millions and tens of millions of people understand around the globe. And that's really what they should do, because they're enormous. That's not what we do. We are targeting basically using the most advanced longevity and biohacking science ingredients and translating them into something your skin likes, can absorb, and can use, and is bioavailable, etc. And that is a very hard task because 90% of the ingredients that we have, no one knows what we're talking about. So I just gave an example of senescent cells and zombie cells and, cells that are malfunctioning. That's one side of it, but we needed to spend 10 minutes explaining what NAD is. So we have many of those ingredients, but bottom line, instead of trying to target only the appearance, when you go to an allopathic doctor and you have a headache, they're going to give you a pill, they're going to send you home. That's an equivalent of like a normal skincare company. They just want to give you results right now. They don't really care what happens to you in the future. What we're trying to do is the same thing we're trying to do in integrative medicine, in more advanced medicine, where we're saying we're not only going to, solve your headache, but what we're really going to do is we're going to look at the fundamental pathways that cause you to have a headache. Maybe you have something off balance in your body that needs to be fixed in order for you to not have headaches again, right? So that is the way that we approach formulating. We look at the most advanced ingredients and figuring out how to get them into your skin in a safe manner, obviously, in an effective manner. The other side of that is really looking at people's normal routine. They wash their face, they use a serum which has basically direction of active ingredients saying, okay, I want to treat wrinkles, I want to treat, uneven pigmentation, I want to treat my acne, whatever that is. And then they put a moisturizer on and maybe sunblock. So we look at the trajectory of people's, regimen, and we're saying, okay, how do we biohack that? Like, how do we take a serum, or how do we take a facial wash, and how do we make that the most effective form of that has ever been created? So these are two sides of the same coin, but we do try to play with that duality. And I think what's most important to us is that we keep, our products on the bleeding edge. So we always have something in research and development. We actually reinvest 90% of our profits in R&D.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, given your role as the forefront of skincare and innovation, I know that you're always out there doing something.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the future trend is for this? And what do you predict for this industry?
Well, that's a big, big, big question, because that is basically only opinions. We can go into, I think it's going to be very interesting as far as when things become more and more and more virtual, as far as who we are, our identity. But that is, I think, a different discussion. It's more like philosophical. As far as the beauty industry as a whole, I believe it's going to be much more personalized, where people are going to take a genetic test and see what genes predispose them to different things, collagen breakdown, lack of luminosity, hyperpigmentation, etc., and are going to have products that are specially designed for that. What we are, very interested in is not necessarily the DNA aspect of it, which is fine, it's great, but it's not really going to give you a picture of who you are right now and what you're lacking right now. What we are interested in are things that are more immediate, such as metabolomics, the science of looking at different metabolites that you have in your blood and inferring, deficiencies, and creating product that will correspond with that. That I feel is the future of, I would say, personalized skincare, because we need to know things right now. If we go and do a DNA test now, they can tell you, they can look at like 5 genes basically and tell you how well you metabolize folic acid, for example. Okay. And the folic acid is everything. It's sprayed on everything. And we need to transfer it into folate. And either we do it well or we don't. So we can know how we behave from now on. Skincare isn't like that. Skincare, we have, if a woman right now is listening to me and she has her menstrual cycle, her skin is actually like a different person's skin every week or every part of their cycle. So that's part of, I believe, like the ability to create a system that someone can really adjust to themselves. So more personalization. I did mention cycle syncing and behaving according to your cycle. I believe it's a big part of everything that we're going to do that's interacting with females that are of reproductive age. anything from working out to obviously meals, mindfulness, and obviously also our skincare. So personalization, I feel, is very, very important. As far as treatment and gene therapy and things like that, we actually are working on that as well. It's just going to take much longer, but that is also possible. Looking at your genetics, looking at a specific gene like the clotho alpha gene. Most people know it as clotho gene. And looking to elevate that. That's like a type of a gene therapy that we can have with a simple ingredient. We just need to make sure to see how we're putting it in skincare product. That's going to take a while, but we can affect this gene, and we know it's going to affect everything else. So yeah, that's where I see this industry going, much more personalized and much more granular and genetic.
This is great. We're here talking with Amitay, who's the CEO and founder of Young Goose, and he's got a special out there for you brain tappers. So if you want to take your first order, if you put in brain tap into the order, you're going to get 10% off of that. And it's really simple, Young Goose. And we're going to make sure that's below in the show notes if you're driving and listening to this. But tell us, how is Young Goose? Because you're always in the forefront of everything. So, I mean, most people we see at shows, I mean, we don't see a lot of skincare there. They're not taking, they're not doing much. And we know that what your environment, how your skin anticipates the environment, affects your cellular structure, DNA. When you talk about DNA, it basically affects it every 40 seconds. It's changing. So if you're putting garbage on, you're sending garbage information, right? So if you put this young stuff on, how is Young Goose staying ahead of the curve and evolving with all this new science? Because people are measuring everything. I mean, we know that if you look good, you feel good, your self-esteem, your self-confidence, everything's going to work better. But tell us a little bit about how you're staying ahead of the curve.
Well, we actually, I believe we're doing something very special because that is all we care about. Every company has their ego somewhere. Every company likes to say, this is what we care about. What we care about is innovation. So we have partnerships with some of the research facilities and universities that are the most interested in it as well. To give you an example, we are now concluding a 2-year development of the world's first spermidine skincare. We're going to introduce spermidine, which is an incredible molecule that targets 9 out of the 12 categories of aging in the skin, and really will be able to recycle old, not very vibrant cells into new cells that are very vibrant. That is something, for example, that we did with the University of Austria, and obviously a whole research team there. But we are always looking for those collaborations. What I just mentioned with metabolomics, that's not like we didn't invent the term and then invent the idea. We looked at who's doing it in the best way possible, and it's a group of researchers from ASU. And we said, whatever you're doing for the rest of the organism, we would like it for the skin. So our idea is really making sure that we as a company are super interested in what's the latest and greatest. Obviously, what works. It's not just what's new. It's what's proven to work. And then what we specialize in, and what we specialize in as far as our skin in the game, where we're putting our money in, is really translating it now to a specific skincare. So I wouldn't say that, we're doing something no one can do, but no one is really interested in doing. And anyone who's ever looked at a skincare company and tried to figure out how to build a regimen from, what you'll see is that if they have some special ingredient, they're going to put it in every product. And that is because they only have that one ingredient. And they want to show you how special they are. So they're putting it in like 7 different products and telling you, oh, you should get all these products. They all have this one ingredient, but that's not reality. There's no silver bullet. Every product should, function differently and should be innovative on its own. So what we're doing really is we're pushing the envelope on every product, in delivery methods, in innovative technologies within the products. In peptide research, I believe we're probably the only company in the last, 2 decades to release a completely different peptide system into their skincare. And that's happening. The same product that we're going to launch that will have the spermidine. It's also going to have the NAD precursors that we talked about, but it's also going to have a completely different copper peptide system to anything that the world has seen until now.
That's awesome. And you mentioned routine. I know that some of our listeners are probably wondering, gosh, how does this guy use it? And maybe you can tell us, the guy regimen, is it different from the female regimen?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that. Maybe give us some insights into how people are using Young Goose.
That's a great question. So the best thing to do, I would say, is go and get our quiz on the website. And that's probably going to give you the best idea of how to have a regimen that's right for you. But for the most part, and I kind of touched on it a little bit before, there are 4 elements that we really want to have in a skincare routine. First, we want to wash our face. That's quite important. We want to have clean skin for many reasons. By the way, we touched before on EMFs and pollution. These things leave EMF, so it changes the polarity in the skin, and it actually attracts things like dust mites and things like that into your skin. But also pollution sticks and heavy metals stick to your skin. So having a good cleanser that knows how to detach those elements from your skin is extremely important. So we, for example, have the adaptogenic cleanser, which is designed to do exactly that, aside from boosting your NAD levels with a specific system. So that's number one. We have to wash our face. The second thing, and I did mention it before, is having a serum. And why is a serum important? It's because everything else in the routine should actually be quite similar to every person in the world. But the serum is your way, for now, to create a personalized regimen for you, for your needs specifically. Mm-hmm. So having everything stay the same, the serum gives direction to your regimen. So, for example, at Young Goose, we have one that is for wrinkles and lines. We have one for pigmentation. We have one for hydration. We have one to correct leaky skin. For example, if you're red, irritated, flaky, etc. And that's going to decide where you're taking this regimen. After that, we use a moisturizer. The moisturizer is important for 2 reasons. First, to lock in those ingredients we've applied with the serum, but also the moisturizer is like a Swiss Army knife of products. It provides hydration, some active ingredients as well. It protects you from having water evaporate through your skin, which is very important for hydration. So it's kind of a all-around product, if you would, like a kitchen sink approach to skincare. And last but not least, obviously, we mentioned sunblock. So we really recommend using BioShield SPF 40, which is our sunblock, because it also protects from EMF, pollution, heavy metals, etc. Aside from the UV radiation, which obviously is important. But this is a very, very simple routine. We can go so much more in depth, but really the best thing to do is take that quiz, and you're going to have your, from the simplest 2-product routine all the way to like a 9-product routine for those that want to do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, what if I forgot to ask you about Young Goose that you think our listeners need to know about, or what would you like to reinforce if you feel like you've information?
I think, I'm going to actually give BrainTap as example. So the reason I use BrainTap is because I cannot, I have a couple of companies. I'm a jiu-jitsu complete addict. I do it a few hours every day. And I have like a million things I'm interested in. And I have so much, I would say, energy that I'm expressing outwards that I don't really have anything that will allow me to recharge and kind of to get something inward. And BrainTap for me is the easiest solution for that. I cannot now go and learn to be Dr. Patrick Porter and use my words to affect my brain. I need 10, 15, 20 minutes of someone basically plugging myself into something and having it run its course on me, and I come better on the other side. Why am I saying that? It's because everyone has priorities, right? Mm-hmm. So everyone has their own bandwidth in which they want to invest time and energy into something. That is why I'm saying our podcast, which is called Biohacking Beauty, isn't necessarily for everyone. because if you only want a laundry list of this is what you got to do, go do it, that's probably going to be the quiz and you're good. You're great. You're done. If you wanted to learn more about, I mentioned why vitamin C in a specific form, ascorbic acid, is toxic for your genes and for your cells, cytotoxic. We spent an hour and a half recording a podcast with the world's foremost expert on vitamin C the other day. You can see the discrepancy between me saying one word or one sentence in an hour and a half, and we actually had to cut her short. Yeah. So it could be like there's a seminar about it, like 3 days. So our podcast is more for people who want to nerd out about skin biology, skin biohacking, etc. That's Biohacking Beauty. The middle ground, or maybe the digestible version, is going to be our Instagram page, which is young_goose_skincare. And this is really probably the easiest way to digest our information. There is another middle ground, which is our YouTube channel, which is just look for Young Goose on YouTube. And you do have like YouTube shorts that are very informative. The team that does it are doing a great job. I don't know exactly how they do it, but they do a great job. So that's kind of where you can find us. Obviously, younggoose.com. Go ahead, look through the product, see what speaks to you, what ingredients you already believe in and like, and you'll find them in our product. So there's a lot to be interested in with our company, I guess.
Yeah. So I'm going to encourage everyone listening, go over to younggoose.com, take that quiz. Mm-hmm. If you buy something, which I'm going to encourage you all to do because we use it here. Mm-hmm. And when I get my 88 acres ready to roll, I bought 88 acres, I'm going to have a healing retreat. We're not going to have that cheap stuff in our bathrooms. We're going to have Young Goose in there because we want to teach people that biohacking isn't just about drinking coffee. Yeah. It's about your whole life and how you're doing it. And our cells, the skin cells, like you said, they're their first line of defense against what's happening in our environment. So we need to take care of those. Also, we need to look radiant. We need to have our skin actually like luminescent. I'm gonna go back and review that piece. I'm gonna start stealing it from my talks because I love that. I love that phrase. We are light beings, and we need to treat our bodies so that we have the most electrical activity or photic electricity, everything we need so our body stays youthful and young. So we need to feed from the inside out and from the outside in. It's not just one-way trip with our body because we're interacting with our environment. So I want to thank you for sharing with us. Go there, remember, put it in BrainTap. You get 10% off your first order, and I'm sure you're going to love it. Everybody I've ever turned on to Young Goose has just loved it and raved about it. So please go on there and do it. And I appreciate the fact that you're also a BrainTap user. So thank you very much for sharing those comments. It wasn't necessary, but that's great.
That's my pleasure.
Okay. Yeah. So we're gonna put all those links that he talked about into the show notes so that if you're driving or something, you can just click on those, go visit them. They're always entertaining. They're always information driven. And, information that you might not think about, a lot of people just think, oh, you just go to the drugstore and you get whatever is on the shelf. And I mean, you see the shelf, there's 100 brands and they're basically 100 of the same thing pretty much with different labels on them. There's really no difference in them. So what we're talking about here is some high-tech skincare that's been well-researched. Your body needs it. It's been proven in science. Things that I love. My wife loves them. Like I said, my granddaughter loves it. I use it when I can get it away from Cynthia. She told me I couldn't use the one, so because she was running out of it too fast. So as you think about these things, just know that it's all part of the same thing. We need to keep our physical body not only looking good, but being healthy. So it's not just about looks like you're talking about. You can get products that make you look good, but it's like putting, like they say, dress up the pig and take it to the county fair. It's still a pig underneath there. We need to dress it up. We don't just need to dress it up. We need to make it healthy. So let's make our body healthy and get it going. So Amitay, thank you for being here. I'm going to look forward to seeing you next time in Miami or at one of our trade shows that we see each other at. So it's always fun to meet you and your wife and see what's new and what's going on with you. So it's always a good time. So again, thanks for listening. Anyone that has skin, please refer them to this podcast because they need to learn about skincare and the truth about skincare, not just put something on. And I love the fact that you have sunscreen that's
Yeah.
healthy, because so many people don't understand how toxic sunscreen is. I didn't realize that sunscreen can stay in your brain for 10 years.
Yes.
So, and so many people just lather up and don't even think twice about it. So
they actually couldn't disprove it. They couldn't. Big skincare companies, one of the things you invest the most in is registering your sunscreen with the FDA, because they consider it a drug. So that's why you see drug facts when you flip the label. And the biggest companies in the world tried to conduct studies to disprove that, and they failed again and again and again. That's an unequivocal fact.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So please like and share this episode. Let's get everybody driving business to Young Goose so that we can turn the tide on this toxic environment we have in skincare out there and make people healthy from the outside in. Again, thank you for being part of it. We're bringing you messages to help you with your life, to have health optimization, helping you to improve your life. Some people call it biohacking. We prefer to call it health optimization, so that you understand that we want to optimize your health, and it starts with your morning routine. Like Amitay was saying, what are you doing for your skin? What are you doing to be radiant today? So this is one of the things you can do. So again, look forward to you being with us on the next podcast. Thanks for sharing this. And Amitay, we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on our mission to better a billion brains. Follow at Dr. Patrick Porter on social media for updates, and remember to practice brain fitness every day.